Okay, so get ready to unlock your potential because on today's deep dive, it's all about the power of taking action.
I love it.
We're diving into YT1.pdf, a transcribed motivational speech, and you know what?
What?
It's got some serious fire in it, but it's also a bit like
Yeah.
trying to grab onto a fistful of water, lots of inspiration, not as much practical advice.
That's a spot-on observation.
Right.
It's definitely big on passion, but
Yeah.
the structure does get a little repetitive.
Right. And that's actually what I wanted to dig into first. That repetition
Yeah.
really highlights the core message that
Right.
taking small, consistent actions, even if they're not perfect, is the real secret to big, lasting success. It reminded me of that whole compounding interest concept, but instead of growing your money, it's about growing yourself.
I love how you put that. It's fascinating how the speech uses the word obligate in the title. Not
Really?
just encourage or inspire,
Yeah.
almost like taking daily action isn't a suggestion.
Wow.
It's a non-negotiable law of personal growth.
Totally. Like, listen up. This is how it's done.
Yes.
So, if we think about this compounding interest for growth idea,
Mhm.
have you ever found that to be true in your own life? Those tiny actions that seem insignificant at first but add up to something huge over time?
Absolutely. And the speech actually gives a brilliant example.
What is it?
Reading just 10 pages a day. Sounds doable.
Yeah, 10 pages, no problem.
But stick with it, and that's 3,650 pages a year, which is like reading 12 books.
Yeah.
Imagine the knowledge you'd gain.
12 books! That's incredible.
Hmm.
Okay, so we're talking small actions, big results. But how does this actually work? What else did the speech have to say about making this happen?
Well, one of the biggest things the speech hammered home was the importance of building strong habits,
Okay.
to the point where taking action becomes automatic.
Okay.
It argues that willpower is a limited resource, and relying on it alone is setting yourself up for failure.
Ugh, tell me about it. Like, when you're planning to go for that run,
Right.
but then willpower crumbles and suddenly you're on the couch scrolling through your phone.
Yes.
We've all been there, right?
Happens to the best of us.
So how does the speech suggest we combat that very human tendency?
It talks about something called environment hacking.
Environment hacking.
Basically, you strategically design your surroundings to remove obstacles and create cues that trigger you to do the things you want to do.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this environment hacking. What does that look like in practice?
Sure, it's all about making the desired action the easiest, most appealing choice.
No.
So, for example, if you want to read more, surround yourself with books.
Okay,
Want to work out? Prep your workout clothes the night before.
makes sense.
Even something as simple as placing a full glass of water on your desk can remind you to stay hydrated throughout the day.
So it's almost like you're setting up these little nudges throughout your day.
Exactly. You're basically outsmarting your future self, making it harder to fall back on old habits. The best
God.
part, this isn't just motivational fluff. There's a ton of research backing up the power of environmental cues and how they subtly influence our choices, often subconsciously. It's fascinating.
That is fascinating. Makes you wonder what cues in our environments are shaping our behaviors right now without us even realizing it. But there was one thing in the speech that seemed a little counterintuitive,
Okay.
especially in a conversation about relentless action.
Okay.
It was the focus on rest and recovery. Why would a speech about getting things done emphasize slowing down?
It might seem counterintuitive, but the way the speech framed it was as strategic energy management, like taking care of a valuable machine.
Mhm.
Think about it. You wouldn't run your car without ever changing the oil or rotating the tires, right?
Yeah,
Rest and recovery are like that essential maintenance for your mind and body.
that's a great way to think about it. So we should be treating ourselves like high-performance machines, worthy of a little TLC now and then.
Exactly. It's not being lazy or selfish.
Hmm.
It's essential for the long game, for being able to show up consistently.
This reminds me of something else the speech mentioned.
Okay.
It emphasized that pushing yourself relentlessly without adequate rest will ultimately lead to burnout. We're talking about small, consistent actions over time, right? Not sprinting until you collapse. It's about finding a sustainable pace.
Yes. This isn't about becoming some kind of superhuman productivity robot overnight.
Right.
It's about a sustainable system for personal growth.
Right.
And speaking of sustainable growth, there are a few other points I wanted to unpack, like that whole section on fear.
Yeah, the fear section.
I found that pretty insightful. What were your thoughts on that? It's
Yeah.
interesting, isn't it?
What is it?
The speech talks about using fear as fuel,
Okay.
which might sound strange at first,
Yeah, a little bit.
but it actually makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Think about it. Fear often pops up when we're right on the edge of growth, pushing past our comfort zones.
Right. Like that nervous energy before a big presentation or a tough conversation.
Exactly.
It's scary in the moment, but pushing through often leads to incredible personal growth and a sense of accomplishment.
Exactly. And the speech made a great point that
That's,
courage isn't the absence of fear, but the ability to act in spite of it.
I like that.
Each time we confront a fear head-on, we build resilience and expand our capacity for growth. What did you think about the part on self-talk?
Yeah, the self-talk.
It seems connected to this idea of overcoming fear, don't you think?
Totally. The speech emphasizes how that voice inside our heads, our self-talk,
Yes.
can either sabotage us or be our biggest cheerleader.
Right.
We've all got that inner critic, but the key takeaway here is that we have a choice.
Or do.
We can challenge those negative thoughts and replace them with more empowering ones. Have you found that to be true in your own life?
100%.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught in those loops of negative self-talk, doubting ourselves, focusing on what we're not good at.
Totally.
Cultivating a more supportive and encouraging inner voice takes conscious effort and consistent practice.
It's like we have to rewire our brains to focus on the positive. Right.
In a way, yes. And that's where surrounding yourself with supportive people comes in.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Remember that part in the speech?
Yeah. Yes. It's like having your own personal cheering section, always reminding you of your strengths and pushing you to keep going, even when you want to give up.
Yeah.
That's huge. The speech also touched on the comparison trap,
Oh, yeah.
which I think so many people struggle with,
Of course.
especially in today's social media-driven world. What resonated with you from that part of the speech?
That was a powerful section. It's so easy to get caught in that cycle of comparing ourselves to others.
Yeah, isn't it?
But as the speech highlights, comparison truly is the thief of joy.
So true.
It often leaves us feeling inadequate and discouraged. It's so easy to get caught up looking at everyone else's highlight reel
Yes.
and forget that we're all on our own journeys
It's so true. Everyone's just posting the best, most curated versions of themselves online.
all the time.
It's like this constant reminder of how we're not living those picture-perfect lives.
Right.
Did the speech offer any strategies for overcoming the comparison trap? Because I feel like that's something a lot of people could use help with.
Absolutely. The speaker emphasized that the key is to shift our focus inward.
Okay.
Instead of comparing our beginning to someone else's middle,
Right.
we need to celebrate our own wins,
Yes.
no matter how small, and acknowledge how far we've come on our own individual journeys.
I love that. Shift the focus inward. Okay, so we've talked about the importance of small actions, building habits, being kind to ourselves, facing our fears, and not falling into the comparison trap. What a lot to unpack. It's like we get so caught up in everyone else's highlight reel that we forget to even enjoy our own journey.
It's so true. And, it's interesting you mentioned that because there was this one part in the speech that I wanted to touch on
Sure.
that really resonated with me about this. And it's the part where the speech talks about motivation,
Oh?
but not in the way that you might think.
Oh, how so?
What kind of challenged that whole idea that we need to wait for motivation to strike before we take action?
Oh, tell me about it.
I'm
always waiting for motivation.
right, like, oh, I'll start that project when I feel more inspired, or
Yes.
I'm just waiting for the right moment, or I need a burst of motivation.
Yes.
The speech is saying that's completely backwards.
Okay.
Motivation often comes after we take action,
Interesting.
not the other way around.
So don't wait for it.
Don't wait for it. Just start, even if you don't feel like it.
Make it till you make it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even if it's a tiny step,
Okay.
it's like that old saying,
What's that?
appetite comes with eating.
Oh, I like that.
We don't usually wait to feel hungry before we start eating.
That's true.
Sometimes we just need to take a bite or two.
And then you realize how hungry you are.
And we're like, oh, wow, I am hungry.
Exactly.
The same with action. The more we do, the more we want to do.
The more we do, the more we want to do. I like that. It's very true. Okay, so we've talked about so many great things today, from small actions and building habits to facing our fears and understanding the role of motivation. But before we wrap things up, there's one more big idea from this speech that I wanted to get your take on
Okay.
because it really resonated with me, and I think it ties everything together beautifully.
I'm intrigued. Let's hear it.
It's the importance of having a strong why, that driving force, that deeper purpose behind everything we do.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
I loved that part of the speech. Having that clear, compelling why, a reason for taking action that truly resonates with you on a deep level, it's absolutely essential for staying motivated, especially when those inevitable challenges and setbacks